So for our last project, I decided to have my first block as the word presence. So I wanted to do it representing life. So I did a baby inside of their mother's tummy. And this is just the process of me drawing it out and then putting it on my block. For my second block, okay, let me know if this makes sense. So like this is the skull, it's a very, very thin outline. This would be the scythe, the hand would be like here, and the tombstone like here. Does that make sense? Would that look okay? And then like this will be like the cloak, and like the rest of this will be black. And I could like scoot this up a little bit too, since so it's not so overcrowded down here. But does that make sense? Or should I have it to where the hand and the coffin here, and like the skull's here, and the scythe come like down this way behind the reaper's head? After getting my idea of my next block, I started to carve out my first one. I decided I wanted to carve out just the body of the mother around the baby for the first part of the carve. This carving material was really hard for me and actually started to make my wrist hurt from an old injury that I have, so I eventually had to wear my brace and stop after a while. After carving this first part, I then went through the printing process. I really like how this first print turned out, but I will say that the cleaning process of this block I did not like that much, because all the detail that I had of the baby and everything is really hard for me to see, so I'm kind of having to look at the picture I took and kind of guesswork. I don't have a video for the next carve out, but this is what it was. I just did the umbilical cord and around the stomach, leaving the baby blank, and this is how the print turned out. I then started cleaning up the lines from the previous prints, since the whole cleaning process, a bunch of the flour and water gets stuck in my really tiny lines, so I had to re-carve out everything. I didn't film the whole process of me carving, but this is the final carve out of the whole baby and all of the block. I then started drawing my second block. I originally had the idea of doing a Grim Reaper holding the scythe with a coffin in its hand, but then I decided just to do the Grim Reaper and holding the scythe, because I ended up not liking how the hand was for the whole coffin or anything like that. And this is the process of me drawing it out onto my block and everything. I then started carving out my first carve. I originally was going to do the whole hand and face for my first part, but then I remembered whenever I do the cleaning block, all of the flour and water was going to be stuck in it, so I just decided to carve out the scythe first so that I wouldn't have to re-carve it out every single time as much and take a lot longer on this block. I also then decided to actually carve out the black lines on the wood part of the handle for the scythe, because I decided I did not want the scythe to be really, really bright, since I wanted this whole entire composition to be more dark. I decided to do that to be a little bit darker, and then I add some highlights later on. After finishing the first carve, I then went through the printing process. This is how my first print turned out. I ended up really liking it. I then went and printed the baby one. I decided to print both at the same time so I didn't have to retake out the ink and everything. And this is how the print for that one turned out. It turned out a little darker than I anticipated or wanted, so I went back in and cleaned up the block a little bit and recarved out around the face to brighten it up some. I then reprinted it, and it ended up turning out a lot better than the first one. And this is how it turned out. I then went through the next process of carving. I just carved out around the cloak and carved out a little bit more of the scythe and handle. I then printed it. And cleaned off my block. This was the print for that block. I really like how it turned out. I then started carving my final carve. I ended up not taking a video of this just so I could look at the picture to make sure I got all the right detail. I carved out the scythe and the cloak again, and then started carving out the hand and face. I then printed it. I thought the face was a little too dark, so I then went through and carved out a little bit more, but then the hand didn't come out very well, so I ended up liking the previous print. And that was it for presence and absence. Thank you for watching.